Crbnly conversation.
Quick question. Is this the podcast? Are we doing the podcast right now?
Howdy ho.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Welcome to another episode of Crbnly Conversations. It's Shane and Chad here to bring you a new topic today.
Yeah, we're trying to think about where we should move and did some digging.
Yeah. 2024 is it's the beginning of the year, so it's a year of change for a lot of people. So maybe this will give someone out there listening some ideas. But before we dig into that, as always, we want to remind all of our listeners and supporters out there that Crbnly Conversations is a podcast where friends examine the intersection of community, lifestyle, and consumption in our lives. And we created this in hope to share our stories and curiosity to motivate actions to help us lower our carbon footprints, and also create a platform for everyone out there listening and community members to share your Crbnly journeys as well. We also want to remind you that we've made it very easy for you to listen to us. Literally all you need to do is scroll down to the show notes, click on find and join the conversation, and that'll give you access to stay up to date on all of our new episodes, which drop every Wednesday, and that'll give you access any podcast platform you use. It should be on there. And
that's what we try to do. So
make it
if you
easy.
Can't find us, reach out.
Yep. Or reach out to us on Instagram. And also we try to post some videos and highlight clips on TikTok. And then also you can check out if you're tired of just listening to us and want to watch us during the conversations, go to YouTube, type in Crbnly Conversations, and you can find the full video episode on there as well. But yeah,
see some of our dimples.
See our dimples, our pretty faces. Our moms love it. So, I was just, before we started, was telling Chad about an article that I found. I guess I can use this to give them a shout out. There's a local website called Columbus Underground that I live in Columbus, Ohio, if you don't know already. They highlight just things going on in the city, and they happen to have an article about Columbus being on the list of one of the best cities for climate change to live in the future. And they highlighted an article from Policy Genius. So Policy Genius, if you don't know, is a website. Chad kind of explained it to me. He's used it before. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a website that basically you can look up any type of insurance policies, whether it be car, home, auto, life. You can kind of type in your information and it'll basically spit out a whole list of what are the best options for you on there.
That's a good way to describe it. They help you aggregate your choices.
Yeah.
So don't listen to Flo on Progressive. Just go to Policy Genius.
Flo could be lying to you. If Flo's telling the truth, Policy Genius will have it there. But
true that.
Anyway, they had an article. They put out an article about the best and worst cities for climate change. So basically, like with climate change being a huge impact on the whole world, what they did was kind of put together some research and different statistics on what cities. I think they used about a 30-year range in the next 30 years would be the best cities to live in to try and combat climate change and kind of get away from some of the effects. So we're not going to, of course, cover the whole list, but we want to cover the top 10 cities. Because as we know, climate is changing. It's happening faster. More dangerous consequences are happening, and specifically in certain cities. There's record-breaking heat, sea levels rising, a surge in devastating storms and wildfires. So there's no denying that it's here. If you're listening to our podcast, I'm assuming that you are um, a
You're not a
person that
climate
knows
denier.
you're not a
Yeah,
climate denier, and you're doing what you can to try and combat climate change. So, um, and then also when it comes to purchasing a home, 30-year mortgages are the um, normal when buying a home. So really right now is a very important time to decide where you want to settle down. Um, because if you're, like I said, if you're not a climate change denier, some of these statistics could actually affect your decision on where you're planning to live, 30 years from now. So,
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a good scale of time to like do this review and research. I applaud those efforts, which
yeah,
kind of pivots into like how did they come up with this list, right? So, like as Shane was explaining, like however it's happening, depending on your outlook, like climate change is real. It's there. People buy homes all the time, and right now the interest rate environment's a little bit higher, so there's less supply. It's more expensive, but people are still in the business of buying and selling homes. So if you're going to look at where to settle, you might want to consider the climate. A lot of
yep,
people do, right? Amongst other things, but climate is inching up in that criteria bucket to be a more and more of a priority for many, many, as we'll get into this.
yeah,
Um, but so Policy Genius used different data sets around suggesting which cities might fare best or worst in the coming 30 years. And they used 6 top like data topics. The first being heat and humidity. Not everyone likes all the heat. Not everyone likes all the humidity. So, like, where is it going to be more? We'll use the word congenial. I think they didn't use that word, but that's kind of the summarization. Flooding and or sea rise levels. So, whether you live by the ocean or a river or a flowing
hmm
body of water or a giant lake, flooding's a big deal. It happens quite frequently. Like sea level rise is a big deal. I think right now the current, what do I want to say it as? So along the southern coast of California, they're getting smashed with super giant waves that are
yeah,
untypical. They usually get like stormy weather in the winter in
yeah,
Southern California, but with El Nino and other things with the ocean, like it's go on YouTube, go on some of the news, like it's pretty vicious. You don't want to be where those waves are crashing.
no,
I actually watched a truck get washed like 50 feet, and it was parked like 100 yards from the beach, from the ocean. So
man, Mother Nature is
a little
very
crazy.
powerful. Yeah,
Yeah, Mother Nature is, don't mess with Mother Nature.
yeah,
So going along with that is natural disasters. I mean, Shane, I don't know if you saw this in the news, but on Tuesday this week, Queens, New York, specifically Roosevelt Island, I think was that, or Astoria, Roosevelt Island, as
hmm
those of you have been to New York, experienced a 1.7 on the Richter scale earthquake
I did
on
not see
Tuesday.
that. Wow.
Apparently, earthquakes are happening mostly everywhere all the time, but they're just little tiny ones. You don't really feel them. But this
hmm
one was just strong enough that where it shook some buildings on Roosevelt Island in Astoria, freaked some people out. Some emergency responders, no one was hurt, thank God.
Wow.
Um, so that's a good example of a natural disaster.
Yep.
We're less likely, more likely are they to happen. Air quality. I mean, should I say more? How many people remember all the images this summer with Canada on fire and the
Yep.
orange skies across many places? It may not do like that kind of Canada burning, may not be good for some of these cities on this list because it directly impact them. But overall, like air quality is also impacted by the amount of trees you have and systems you have to keep the air clean, which is nature. Social vulnerability and community resilience. They're not really the same thing. They're a little bit more complicated to unpack, but it's like how nice of a place is it to live there with your neighbors? How well is the community funded, supported through governance, social programs, and just taxpayers doing their
Yep.
taxpayer duties and supporting everyone else? So quality of life kind of like topics there. So those are the 6 that Policy Genius used. They pulled data sets from multiple research institutions to compare cities across that and give them a score.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish I had a drum so I could do the drum roll.
Yeah.
But Shane, would you like to share
Yeah.
what that top 10 list is?
Yeah. Or it would be nice if we had the old David Letterman, you know, how he did the top 10 list every
Oh, yeah,
every
yeah. I totally
episode.
forgot. Yeah.
So
You could
I
get the
wish I had
Wayne's World too.
I wish I had a pencil. Yeah, and he would throw the pencil at the screen. I wish I had a pencil right now to throw at my computer. But yeah, we'll start from number
Call
10
back.
and then go up to number 1. But so number 10, they listed Denver, Colorado. Number 9, Richmond, Virginia. 8 is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so not too far from where I'm at. Number 7, we have Portland, Oregon. Number 6, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So all the cheeseheads there. 5, Baltimore, Maryland. And number 4, we have a city that you're very familiar with, Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Which is kind of Chad's hometown. Like, you know, he's from the...
Near enough.
Near enough.
The biggest city
know?
near enough my hometown, yep.
Yep. So, and well, being that we have connection to number 4, we'll kind of give some of the background of why that was selected. So it says, coming in at number 4, the biggest threat Minneapolis residents face is heat. So by 2050, residents can expect around 15 extremely hot days per year. That's nearly 13 more than today. So I mean, that's a pretty big increase.
What does that say about all the other cities that already
exactly?
Oh my God!
So, and those rising temps will see with it a rising dew point. So days with high heat and humidity are also expected to increase to almost 19 days per year, which are 14 more than today. And it says while 7.2% of the properties will be in a 100-year flood zones come 2050, that's just 0.1% more than today. So that's not a big increase at all. And then it says, so how is this city preparing for this sweltering heat wave? Pretty well, if its community resiliency score has anything to say about it. So it says since 2013, the city has been working to reduce energy use, recycle half of all of its city waste, and build 30 miles of bicycle lanes to promote green transportation in an effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 30% by 2025, which is next year.
Go Minnesota, so progressive and pragmatism. That's what I'm hearing. We're going to make this place a better place to live. Or as I grew up, we're going to leave it better than the way we found it.
There you go.
That's Minnesota for you.
That sounds like a Minnesota thing right there. So shout out to Minnesota. Number 3, we have my city where I live and what I consider my hometown. And I guess the reason why I even came across this article is Columbus, Ohio. So it says Columbus is 3 on our list for best cities. Through some of its projected numbers will make you realize that San Francisco and Seattle are largely anomalies in how relatively unaffected they'll be by climate change. It says the biggest risk facing Columbus residents is heat. Ohioans can expect steamier summers come 2050, with an average of 20 days of extreme heat predicted, which is 18 more days than we are experiencing now. So that's a little scary, but and unfortunately, that's not a dry heat. The number of days with high heat and humidity is similarly expected to increase to nearly 17 annually by 2050, which is almost 15 more days than today. So we're already a pretty humid city and state. So we just got to buckle down and get ready for some more. But on the brighter side, the risk of hurricanes, tornadoes, wildfires remains low as time goes on. Flooding also shouldn't be a big issue in the future. The percentage of properties in 100-year flood zones is only expected to rise 0.5% versus today to 4.4% in 2050. And it says, though it ranks in the middle of the pack for community resiliency, Ohio's capital is well positioned to adapt to its changing climate, thanks largely to part of Mayor Ginther's bold climate action plan for the city to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. So shout out to Columbus, shout out to Mayor Ginther. I definitely personally see all of the different changes that we're going through and all the different projects and things like that. We have a lot of bike lanes being built as well. So it's no surprise for me, and I feel very proud that Columbus made this list. So
Yeah, it's definitely an up and up city. You and I have talked a lot about that, and a lot of investment in resiliency, community outreach, and just like making it a better place to live downtown and around versus the suburbs. And that, I mean, we've talked about in this past, but like the giant CHIPS Act, like with is it Intuit? Not Intuit. Intel.
Intel.
And then other like major investments that are happening in and around Columbus for technology as like a tech hub. It's a growing place. So I can see all that. I will have to like protest because Columbus got 4 paragraphs. Minneapolis just got 3 paragraphs. But there is a river going through Columbus, but they talk about flood zones being made, low. Like Minneapolis is the city of lakes, so there could be some flooding there, I guess. And it does get a little bit colder up there. But anyways, these are fun cities and a fun list to like debate, because I think what gets me going and a little bit more of the research that we can share is that for most prospective buyers, when they're shopping for a home, they're looking at the climate risk impact. And I know for myself, who's been an avid like property looker, searcher, buyer, helper, and I use Redfin pretty regularly, and I continuously look at Redfin. When I started, they didn't do this, and now they do. But each listing has a climate risk evaluation and impact. They give each listing a score on like on a lot of these same categories, like flood, walkability,
zones,
like all that fun stuff, and it scores it so you can compare that when you're shopping. And which I find really interesting. And I think in that vein is like, so a clear majority of people in each region of the United States consider at least one climate risk when shopping for a home. My guess is that's a flood zone or a fire zone, depending on where you're at, or sea level rise. And a majority of today's buyers are millennial and Gen Z shoppers. I think somewhere it says they make up, as first-time buyers, almost 50% of all buyers are first-time buyer, Gen Z, millennial. And they're more apt and regularly considering climate risk when deciding where to live and to buy homes. And you can see that in a lot of the trends, sustainable living. I would argue, like in that same lane of like why we even have this podcast and why we ended up in this Crbnly conversation topics is like we're thinking about this stuff all the time. Like I have kids, and they make decisions based off how well they think the world may exist 20 years, 30 years from now, and they're not very positive about it, and we're trying to alter, support, and change that and all our Crbnly behaviors. But this is a big deal, especially when you're investing all that money into a place you're going to live.
And it definitely like it. And I guess to round out the list, we got excited because our 2 cities were on there. But number 2 was Seattle, Washington. Number 1, San Francisco, California.
Which I'm still up in like, are you sure that should be on the list? But
maybe
that's not
they
for
got
me
a
to
little
decide.
they got a little money under the table on that one. But
I don't know. I mean, it's a beautiful city. It's a great place to visit. But
another thing that comes to mind, especially with like Policy Genius coming out with this list, is like, also to take into consideration is like we were talking about before we started recording, is like, who knows, like maybe even banks 20 years from now, maybe the interest rates in certain cities are going to be higher than other cities.
Good call,
because
Shay.
of the risk of maybe people leaving sooner than later, not finishing out the term of the mortgage. Insurance rates will definitely be a difference. They already are. Like I live in a historical floodplain. Anybody that does their research about like Franklinton and Columbus, that's like the first thing that's going to be mentioned is like the historic floods 100 years ago. And there are some houses that are still zone. I don't know the correct terminology, but the way they're zoned, it still shows that they're in a floodplain, even though a lot of work has been done
Mm-hmm.
to help with that. And their insurance rates are like way higher than some other
Or not
homes,
even available. Like,
or not
I mean, try
available.
to buy homeowner insurance in some of those areas that hurricanes have destroyed in Florida. Like,
Right.
good luck.
Yep. So, I mean, you're talking about even with interest rates going up, like then add on a whole nother expense of
Mm-hmm.
having this expensive insurance.
And in that same lane, just of like economic like outlook, right? So a house for many Americans or a home purpose is like the largest purchase they're ever going to make,
Yeah.
especially if they buy more than one,
Yeah.
over time, like do the equity gain, but move into something larger for your family or whatever the reasons you would change houses. If it's one of the largest purchases you're ever going to make, like that's a big deal. And one of the, I'll say best, but a great way to gain wealth is to own real estate, like real
Yep.
property. And for many people, it's a home. That's the best.
Yep.
That's their option in, an avenue in. And so if you're gonna take this seriously, you're gonna want to buy, to your point, like where it may be cheaper to do because you want to get the best value for your
Mm-hmm.
price. So where's home insurance and all the other supportive insurance? Where's most likely might get the best insurance interest rate if that ever gets tied to climate change? And what's the likelihood your house is going to exist 30 years from
Exactly.
now, right?
Yep.
Is it going to be in the floodplain? Is it going to be where like natural disasters consistently happen? Is it going to be so damn hot there's no water available? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we didn't even talk about the Colorado River and the dam and the access
Yep.
to water out west, right? I mean, Phoenix literally stopped building and stopped developers from building because there's just no, unless you have water, you can't build. Like,
Yep.
and there's creative, and we could talk about all that
Yeah. There's
stuff in
just so
different,
many
like,
ins and outs of it. Yeah.
yeah. But
And
it's a huge deal, and it's a, like, if you're 32 years old and you're looking to buy your first house, are you going to go do it where you, this may not be your house or something? I mean,
yeah.
that's another risk you got to factor into your decision.
Yep.
I'm just getting all like
Yeah. I
verklempt
mean,
about this.
it's a fun topic, and yeah, we both. I've learned a lot about real estate and things like that from you and Lauren, and like it's something that if I were speaking to someone younger than me that is looking to start that journey, like this is definitely something that I would mention to them, or even more
Mm-hmm.
specifically to people that want to begin their own real estate portfolio to where 30 years from now they have this income coming in. This is definitely something that you want to take into consideration because you don't want to own a bunch of homes in a city where in 30 years no one's going to really want to live because
Or
people are going to
can.
start moving
Yeah.
and then you're going to have to charge super low rents. So I mean there's just so many things involved in this topic. And like I said,
Yeah.
we brought it up because two of our home cities are listed, but it's above that. It's just a way more important topic than I guess what we're presenting it as. And we recommend everyone to check out this article. The link will be in the bio and kind of read the information because it also lists the worst cities. So that'll kind of give
Yeah.
you some insight on what to look for
Yeah.
too. So
I won't. I don't remember what the. No, I do remember. Houston, Texas is the
yeah.
worst city,
And then
and then the
Florida.
following 5 is
Yeah.
pretty much Florida.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
pick a big city in Florida. It's in that
Yeah.
list.
If there aren't enough reasons to leave Florida now, this should
Yeah.
be another reason. but
Yeah.
but no, check it out. Hopefully this gives, some important information to someone out there. So
Definitely.
this was a good
Good
topic.
topic.
Yeah.
Good find, Shane. Got us all
Yep.
fired up.
Yeah. So another shout out to Columbus and to, let's just say, the whole state of Minnesota, the whole state of Ohio, the whole state of Minnesota.
It may not always like deliver what you wanted politically, but both states are like quality places to live and raise
They
families.
are. Yep. So we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We appreciate
Definitely.
you taking the time out to listen.
And if you just recently are thinking about buying a house and you want to learn more, let us know. Like, we're happy to chat about it.
Yep.
I mean, it is a sport for me. Like, I love learning about real estate.
Yeah, Chad knows a lot, so hit us up.
Hit us
And
up indeed. Well,
Until next time.
till next time, Shane. Have a good night.